It is one.
Okay, great. All right. Welcome, everyone. Why don't we call the roll, please, Dawn?
Of course. I do want to remind everyone that we are live streaming and recording this meeting. Both of those things have already started. Cindy Butts has let me know she will not be available today.
Okay.
Wendy Clark. Heidi DeWinger.
Here.
Claudio Gualtieri.
Here.
Commissioner Mascara-Bruno.
Here.
Matt Puglisi. Lisa Tepper-Bates. And Greg Ugalde.
Here.
Okay.
We do have a quorum in attendance for the meeting.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have a short agenda. The first item is an amendment to our financing for West Ridge in New Haven, and to be presented by Trayvon.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Okay, so West Ridge, the board action is to approve an increase of 4.3 million in taxable bond proceeds for construction to permanent first mortgage loan authorized by the board at its June 2024 meeting. And also to authorize an allocation of 9% low-income housing tax credits from the 2025 ceiling in the amount of $1,559,999. So basically, after the board approved the financing in June, the investor did their final underwriting. And in order to enhance the tax credit equity pricing, the pay-in schedule was changed so that more tax credit equity will be paid following completion of construction of the development. The original schedule paid was 75% of the equity by the time of construction. The new schedule only pays 27.5% of the equity prior to construction completion. Increase to the construction loan is needed to completely fund the construction. There will be sufficient funds from tax credit equity to fully pay off the construction loan at final closing. And the development was awarded 2023 9% round credits and was given a forward allocation of 2024 credits. So the authorization for a return of 2024 credits for an allocation of 2025 credits is also being requested. The exchange will only be made if it looks like the placed in service date of December 31st, 2026 cannot be achieved.
So explain to me why how this happens. I don't understand. It's like we're moving, shells around, but how does this happen?
I'll take that, Heidi. So what happened here is they were able to get a better raise on their equity contribution, and so what that does, what they had to give up was the equity was back-ended. So if the equity comes in sort of coincidental with our advances, it reduces the amount of it increases the risk to the equity
Right.
provider, right? So by back ending it, they've reduced their risk, so they're willing to pay a higher raise. By paying a higher raise and not coming in till later, we need more construction loan funding during the construction project to address the needs as it goes according to schedule. Then what will happen is the equity will come in at the end of the deal, the amount of equity that we intended, and they'll pay it down to the $8 million perm loan that we had approved back in June. It's just a matter of there's an increase in the raise predicated upon the equity coming in later. And so we've created I don't want to call it a gap, but an additional need during the construction process for funding. Does that make sense?
It makes sense because it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But why does that happen? Is it because the project is so favorable they were able to raise more equity, or that the equity investor is skittish and wants to make sure it's done and doesn't want to risk its equity? I mean, the question is why? Why does this happen?
Yeah, this was just trying to negotiate additional terms to get a higher raise out of the equity. So what they were paying per credit. And Trayvon, what's the actual new equity raise on this 91?
85.
85. And so by the way that they were able to come to terms with increasing their raise, the
Mhm.
equity provider, was to come in later in the deal. We see that, I mean, most of the times
Okay.
we review the equity contribution schedule, and they're all different, and it's how the equity providers and syndicators determine what their raise is going to be. So it's a function of risk, and it's just a schedule that the investors put together.
So
Okay.
that is also because it was the owner had some gap and they were trying to fill the gap, or is not necessarily the case?
But I don't think that was the case here. They didn't have a gap. This was just,
Yeah. They have a gap.
so they have a gap.
Yeah, pricing, when it went higher, they were having trouble bidding it out because it's in New Haven. They said that there's a lot of construction jobs going on in New Haven, and they were having trouble getting pricing that was within the budget, so they did have a gap.
So basically this transaction allowed them to fill the gap. They needed more money on the construction, so that the syndicator was willing to increase their equity if they came at the end of the project. I mean, at the end of the construction, basically.
So is there some formula for this? I mean, because I don't remember seeing this scenario before. I mean, 4 million is a fairly big increase. More equity is great. We end up all in the same place, and so I understand it. I'm just trying to get a sense for, is this like something that will happen more often going forward? So, or is it just an aberration? Because you said in New Haven, there's a lot of construction, so it's hard to get contractors. I'm trying to just understand.
I think this had to happen before when I was in the field. There will be negotiation to get more on the construction side. I think what it is also is that this developer is kind of new to this tax credits.
Okay.
So it has been a little bit of a process, I think. Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't remember all the projects, but I thought that this was kind of a new developer in the tax credit world. So there are some things that we'll learn through the experience, and you try to mitigate them. And there are other ones that you learn through the process. And I think probably this was that case. Deb?
Yeah, the organization is not new to tax credits, but the staff is new. They had not done a transaction in many, many years.
That's
So-
Queech. How do you pronounce that?
Yes,
Queech. Okay. Have we done any deals with them before?
yes.
We have.
Yeah,
And-
there's one on the site right next door that we had done.
Okay.
Um,
and
2025.
satisfact- Is it
2005,
working?
I'm sorry.
2005. Thanks,
Yeah.
Trayvon.
Park Ridge.
Right.
Did that work out okay?
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe so.
Okay. Sorry. Oh, go
So-
ahead, Trayvon. Sorry. I just wanted to understand.
Just Heidi, just to follow up on that though, so we feel that this is equal to or better than the original deal from where we sit, right? I mean, it looks to me that it's preferable doing it this way. It's just that it's interesting that it had to catch up after approvals. But it seemed like they got it approved the old way as well. Now with more equity, we're
Right.
still able to do it, but just do it up front a little bit heavier. Is that
Right.
accurate?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Greg, because otherwise we would have to come out with some additional subsidy, and that was what staff was working with them to let them
Figure it
know.
out, right?
We'd
And
have to
so
have
they were
more
able to go back to
per-
the drawing board in
Yeah,
effect.
and have more permanent loan because they got more equity, we don't have to. Just more construction, interim
it's
financing
more construction because
Right.
the equity is coming late.
is
in the
later.
process.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it is unusual though.
Let me know. Yeah, let us know if this works
Right.
as planned.
Okay,
We will.
Please.
sure.
Okay, go ahead, Trayvon.
That was all I had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to tell us that, are you concerned at all with what's this transpired?
I
Not so
don't think we have any concerns. This isn't really out of the ordinary, Heidi. This is just another method of trying to address these sort of bumps that come in the road. So
Okay.
we're hoping that we can get this closed in the next 60 days, right? I think we want to
Right.
get this closed by year end.
Mhm.
So this is on the fast track for getting it closed, and then we'll get them started under construction. So
Yeah, it does seem like it's taking a while. Okay, is there anybody else have any other questions or comments?
I'll
Okay,
make
is
a
there-
motion to approve it as submitted.
Thanks, Greg. Is
I
there a
second
second?
it. Second it.
Okay. Dawn, could you call the roll, please?
Yes. Cindy Butts, Wendy Clark, Heidi DeWeingart,
Aye.
Claudio Gualtieri,
Aye.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Matt Puglisi, Lisa Tupper Bates, Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes unanimously.
Okay, great. I think that is the only item we had on the main agenda. Now we have the, if you could scroll up a little, maybe the minutes. Okay,
Just
this is the
minutes.
minutes. Does anybody have any comments, questions, changes to the minutes? They look fine to me.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. I'll second it. Dawn?
Cindy Butts, Wendy Clark, Heidi DeWeingart,
Yes.
Claudio Gualtieri.
Is it possible to abstain since I wasn't here, please?
Yes.
It is.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Matt Puglisi, Lisa Tupper Bates, Greg Ugalde.
Aye.
The vote passes with one abstention.
Thank you. Okay, I know we had a couple of reports also. We had the read the home ownership report to be presented by, I forget.
Andrew Bolt.
That's
Oh,
me
okay,
right here.
Andrew, please.
So my name is Andrew Bolger. I'm a senior with the research and marketing group here at CHFA. For those that don't know, Kaylor Giordano has since left CHFA for another opportunity, and so
Oh.
I'll be filling in for her on this report going forward. So Don, if you can scroll down a little bit. So just quickly, the agenda for today, you're going to talk about our reservation and first mortgage activity, give a little update on the Smart Rate program, talk about our top lenders, down payment assistance program, time to own, our demographic and geographic information, and then provide a kind of new methodology for estimating our market share among first-time home buyers, just to kind of better compare ourselves to the market. So our reservation activity remains pretty elevated. Particularly in the month of July, we saw north of 400 reservations. And then with the pause of time to own in the later half of that month, we saw a bit of a dip, but Smart Rate came online and we've seen still pretty elevated reservation activity in the months of August and September. Just to note that 53% of the third quarter reservations included a request for time to own and or Smart Rate. Next slide.
Andrew, could you give us a definition of smart rate?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The smart rates, what?
Yeah, we're going to get to that after this coming slide. Just a quick explanation. So overall, our first mortgage activity, again, has been pretty elevated in terms of overall purchases. We've purchased 2,951 loans totaling just north of $750 million through the third quarter of this year. And then just our median loan amount was $267,000 with a median interest rate of 6.5%. And then the next slide is just a quick overview of the Smart Rate activity to date. So again, this program launched in July and has the goal of assisting those with an elevated level of student debt achieve homeownership, and that's done through basically an interest rate buy down of 1.125% on the CHFA first mortgage. So that reduces the impact of the mortgage and the student loan payment combined. Hopefully we get it to a more affordable standpoint for the borrower. And to date, as of the 21st, we've had roughly 250 reservations, about 100 closings. We've seen a recorded median student debt amount of $35,000, which matches some third-party external research on average student debt in Connecticut. Seen a median sales price of about 315, median first mortgage amount of roughly $300,000. And to date, we've done about $75 million, just over $75 million in overall first mortgage lending.
And just to add, I'm sorry, Andrew, just to add to that, the sum of the mortgages, we can only go up to 120 million. So I just wanted to throw that out there that it will stop at that mark.
Right. A little more than halfway there. What is not shown here is actually some statistics on the average age or median age. So our median age for our smart rate borrowers right now is roughly 32 years old. That's about 3 to 4 years younger than our portfolio at large. So it's kind of an indication that we're helping some younger borrowers get their foot in the door through this program. And then next slide. So lender activity remains pretty constant from the previous quarter. Our leading lender is First World Mortgage, followed by Total Mortgage Services, and then Movement Mortgage and Fairway Independent, again, have kind of jumped into the third and fourth spot with pretty significant increases over their activity from last year. And next slide. Oh, Heidi, you have a question?
Can you tell me what just approximately what the average first mortgage rate is on our loans today?
Varies by the day, but it's, Lisa, right,
Yeah.
it's about 6.5% to 7% right now.
Okay, yep, thank you.
So a little bit about our down payment assistance programs to date. Through the third quarter, we financed roughly 1,300 DAP loans, totaling about $18 million. You'll see that relative to last year, the program is a little less subscribed, about 25% less DAP loans than this time last year. That's in part due to the time to own program. If we go to the next slide, time to own seen a pretty significant increase in activity year over year. To date, we've financed about 2,200 loans through the third quarter, and you can see relative to last year, that's about 1,000 more time to own loans through the third quarter of this year. To date, since the program has launched, we've seen about 4,500 closings through the third quarter since June of 2022. That is through the third quarter, but as of this past Sunday, we are just under 4,900 closings. So we're closing in on that 5,000 mark pretty soon here. Next slide. Race and ethnicity breakdown. We are right now standing about 51.3% of our closed loans have gone to borrowers of color. And that's just really right in line with our performance from last year as well. Next slide. Geographic distribution, not much has changed here. Our kind of programs are generally more heavily subscribed in urban and suburban areas, with generally pretty significant demand across the state and in some rural areas. But our top 5 towns have been pretty consistent, making up Waterbury, Hartford, Bristol, East Hartford, and New Britain, really lighting up on the map there. And then next slide. So as I mentioned, we've been exploring ways to better kind of compare ourselves to the market, given some of the reservation activity we've been seeing lately. And one of the ways we've tried to do this is estimating our market share amongst first-time homebuyers in Connecticut. And so the methodology we've developed here is essentially taking our total closings in a given quarter here, dividing that by the total number of home sales, again, in a specific quarter, times 32%. That 32% is what NAR, National Association of Realtors, estimates is the percentage of home sales nationally that goes to first-time home buyers. So we're basically taking our overall production and dividing it by what we think is the total number of home sales in Connecticut that are going to first-time buyers. And we can see this is the result here. This is the data line. But in the third quarter, we're estimating that we made up roughly just over 20% of first-time buyers. If we go back historically, we see kind of pre-pandemic that number was hovering between 15 and 20% generally. With the onset of the pandemic and rates dropping pretty significantly, we saw our market share drop with the kind of spread in our rates getting a little bit less attractive. And then as rates began to increase in 2022, that spread got larger. We had the introduction of time to own. Our programs generally became more attractive, and we had our market share peak in the last quarter under this methodology of at roughly 30%, and it's come down just a little bit. But the other thing that this lets us do is compare look at our market share geographically. Dawn, if you can go to the next slide. Lets us look at it by town. And what we see, at least recently, is a pretty notable increase in our estimated town level market share recently. So on the left, you have Q3 2020 to Q3 2022. On the right, it's Q3 2022 to 2024. And what you see is a lot more dark green, right? Those are towns where our estimated market share is over 15%. So on the map on the left, it was only 22 towns that had a estimated market share for our products of over 15%. Right, and on the right, it's 79 towns. So almost half of towns in Connecticut have a market share above 15%, according to this methodology. So really broad demand and kind of subscription for our programs statewide, with kind of generally a bit more room for improvement in the western part of the state, maybe down on the shoreline as well. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
But it just shows there's more penetration. Well done.
Right, right.
Any questions? Anybody? Thank you.
Yeah, good information. This
Yeah,
is
very good.
helpful.
You're welcome.
Very helpful. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is our multifamily summary or quarterly report.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yessie Clift. I'll be presenting the report to you. So on our first page, we have our development spotlight. This is Heffron Terrace in Willimantic. It is a family development containing 90 units and 45 duplex-style buildings located in Willimantic. The development was built in 1952 and is part of the SSHP portfolio, utilizing a combination of CHFA loan proceeds, HTCC funding, DOH funding, and existing project reserves. The Housing Authority completed over $5 million in needed improvements to enhance the property and provide physical sustainability of property for at least 30 years. This work included the replacement of roofs, chimneys, gutters, siding, windows, doors, plumbing, and other site conditions. The replacement of domestic water service lines, faucets, and fixtures was also included in the scope of work. Energy efficient measures include retrofit exterior wall and attic insulation, Energy Star windows, high efficiency boilers, and LED light fixtures. The property consists of 62 two-bedroom units, 33 bedroom townhouse units, 41 two-bedroom, and 19 two-bedroom units, which are restricted to households earning up to 25% of the AMI, and 19 two-bedroom and 11 three-bedroom units are restricted to households earning up to 50% of AMI. Each unit has a private entrance, individual driveway with space for 2 vehicles, and a shared backyard. And you can see the pictures there, and this project is due to final close sometime in November. If you want to scroll down, Dawn. These are our numbers. You can find all our initial closings that are pending, final closings for our 9%, our 4%, SSHPs, our overall numbers, and a few notes here on all our things, especially like the build for CT. You can see now we're at 8 developments, our total number of units, and the amount of the closed loans for the build for CT right now is at 54.1 million. Now I'll have a little more information on the HTC rounds down at the bottom. Thank you. These are our numbers year over year. In blue are our current numbers for our October of 2024, and in orange are the numbers for last year. And as you can see, overall, almost all the numbers have improved this year. If you want to scroll to the next page, there you go. Here's just some news going on with multifamily. You can see our ribbon cuttings. We've had a number of them in September. Our asset management team attended the Conero convention and presented 2 workshop sessions. They also held a training session at CHFA, and the topics were Executive Director 101 and enhancing community partnerships. We also had some multifamily staff attend the New England Resident Service Coordinators Virtual Summit, and some topics there included Alzheimer's support, Medicare updates, and various topics. If you want to scroll down a little for me, Dawn, thank you. CHFA staff has been busy preparing for the next 9% LIHTC round. The overview recording was updated and revised guidelines were published, and pre-application conferences have started. Applications are due on January 15th of 2025. So the next time I present this at the end of January, we'll have an even better update for you on that round as well. So in 2024, housing tax credit contribution, our HTCC program, closed September, I think, 24th or 25th, and over $10 million was awarded to 23 projects. Oh, and there's the date on the 26th. And on top of all the numbers that were just on 2 pages back from us, the Build for CT also has 4 more applications currently in the pipeline. If you want to scroll to the next page. Our closings over the past 3 months, July, August, and September, we had 11 initial closings and 10 final closings, and they're all listed there in that little blue thing. These are all pending, and West Ridge will be off of this list for next month. That was the one that was just presented to you by Trayvon. And if you want to scroll to the last page. Thank you, Don. This is an upcoming transaction, and since we highlighted Hebron Terrace that is closing next month, we decided to highlight another one that is in Willimantic as well. This one is called Terry Court, and this should be coming up to you in the next few months. This is a residential development for families that is comprised of 34 residential buildings encompassing 68 units. There are 2 one-bedroom units, 62 two-bedroom units, and 4 three-bedroom units, all serving households at 25 and 50% of the AMI. It is owned and managed by the Willimantic Housing Authority, the same as Hebron Terrace, and it is a part of the SSHP. Originally constructed in 1948 and renovated in the early 1990s, this development needs capital improvements. The proposed scope of work for this phase of development includes HVAC upgrades, hazardous materials abatement, new windows, doors, and siding throughout the existing 60 units. 4 existing buildings with 2 units each will be demolished and replaced to create 8 new construction, fully ADA handicapped accessible units. And you can see a picture of what they currently look like. And that's it for me.
Thank you.
Heidi, if I may, I just want
Sure.
to add one thing for the multifamily report. This report is through the end of the 3rd quarter, but last week we found out that we are going to be awarded $2 million in capital magnet funds. We had applied back in the spring,
Right.
and so we're very, very pleased. We will be matching that with ITA funds. And so as we move forward, we'll do, we've had to earmark some transactions in our application, and we're going to try to get those funds in. So we're very happy to have heard last week that we're getting those funds.
Good. Is that an annual ask or award that we could
Yes. Yeah,
aspire to?
we received an award. I believe it was in 2020, it was before my return. And we were
in
able to
2020.
2020, and we were able to successfully deploy those funds. So we went back out this year and asked for funds, and our plan is to deploy these funds as quickly as possible, and then ask for more in the next round. By more, I mean even more than the 2 million that we requested this time around.
Great. Terrific. Okay. All right. I think that's all we had on our agenda. That's it. Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? No? Okay, short and sweet. Thanks, everybody. I guess I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Thanks. I'll second it. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.